Uh, it was in 1959 when two brothers started to work in the sanitary business. It's about an hour away from here in the fantastic part of Sweden called Skåne. And then they started a construction company, but it was too long to call it Paulson Construction Company, so they named it Peab instead. Peab, for all of you Swedish people, and probably even more people around the world would know Peab as the biggest construction company in Sweden today. They have 15,000 employees there. And they do work with a different kind of sanitation, of course, today. Peab has a number of sustainability targets. Sandra Roberts, she's the environmental coordinator of Peab, and she will tell you all about that. She's already on the stage here behind Sandra Roberts. A big hand for Sandra. Varsågod. Välkommen.
That's a nice start, thank you. It's really inspiring to be here. And I'm going to be talking to you about our environmental goals. I'll take 1 minute faster to present Peab, although you did do a fantastic job presenting us, and talk about sustainability as we look at it as a whole. And then I'll focus on our environmental goals. So, like you said, we're the Nordic community builder. Present in 3 countries mainly, and we're the leading construction and civil engineering company in the Nordic area. We're very rooted in our core values. That's significant for Peab, we like to state, and it's down to earth, developing, reliable, and personal. We have 4 collaborating business areas. So we basically do everything from residential areas to bridges, hospitals, playgrounds. And then we also have our industry area that supplies what we basically need to build our projects. So they supply gravel, rocks, asphalts, prefabricated concrete elements, and also handle production waste. I think Sabina summarized sustainability in such a beautiful way, and it's quite like we see it in Peab. It's a trinity, really, between social, economic, and environment sustainability. And for us, everything starts with our own business. Everything we do must be ethical and sustainable, and our core values, together with our code of conduct, really is our guiding light in this when we look at sustainability. And we believe that long-term relationships with both customers and our suppliers is going to give us better result, both in socially way and economically, but also for the environment. Because this trinity really says that sustainability is the ability to sustain long-term. In our dialogue with our stakeholders, it's evident that sustainability matters today. It's very high on the agenda. And the dialogue gives us important guidance when we look at our business plan. So for us, the goal is really to meet the demands of our stakeholders, and at the same time create new business opportunities. Is what it's really about. And on the environmental side at the moment, we can really see a big demand and interest from our stakeholders. Our investors, they want to see how we respond to climate change risks. Our clients, they demand life cycle analyses on our projects. They want to know and see how we can build infrastructure and housing with no hazardous substances and with low CO2 emissions. And then we have our co-workers. It's really important for them that we are sustainable. It matters. And what's motoring this whole shift and change is really the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So for Peab, our business plan moves towards circularity and fossil-free economy. It's very important for us to be competitive in the future. And on the environmental side, it's our environmental goal that are going to help us to do this. So if we take a look at our goals, we're focusing on reducing our climate impact, ensuring highly efficient material operations, phasing out environmentally hazardous products. And I think these goals are really expiring, and they're dependent on each other. Because in order to become climate neutral, we need to be material efficient. And in order to be material efficient, we have to start with phasing out health hazardous substances. And material efficiency sits in the middle, and it's really the motor into a sustainable future. It's simple, it's about reduce, reuse, and recycle. Let's see. I'm going to take you quickly through the individual goals. I could talk the whole day, but I only had 15 minutes, so I'll have to be quick. So the first goal, by year 2030, we will have phased out our environmentally and our health hazardous substances. And how do we go about that? We're no chemists at Peab. We like to build stuff. Well, we have to start with a definition. And what we're going to do is by conscious product selection, with the aim then to phase out substances with particularly hazardous substances. So the definition lies then in what is particularly hazardous. The definition for us is properties like cancerogenic, toxic to reproduction, environmentally hazardous, and so on. We will have to accept some hazardous properties. As you know, wet concrete, for example, is corrosive to human tissue, so we will have to accept some of those properties. But when we do our product selection, we then have to look at both content of a substance and concentration limits. And like I said, we're no chemists. We like to build things. So we rely upon the systems that's available on the market. And here we see a really, really positive trend, because the supply chain is changing their products to suit these systems. And for us, that's great, because then we get more products to choose from, and we can build sustainable. Just looking at the products available at Basta and Byggvarubedömningen, which are the major systems today, it's a lot more products than just 5 years ago. So it's a positive change. And also internally in Peab, there's a lot more projects that actually use these systems. So we do see a positive trend. But in order to reach all the way, to reach that goal for 2030, we need to cooperate with the supplier and the manufacturer chain. We need the products to be suitable to fit these systems for product selection. So that's important for us, and we do that at the minute, but we can see in the future that sort of close collaboration is going to be even more important. Our next goal, year 2040, our business will be 100% material efficient. It's a big promise. It's got different dimensions to this goal. So we need to optimize the use of resources, and this is also very important for biodiversity. So being material efficient and goes also hand in hand with biodiversity. We need to minimize waste. Our new products need to contain recycled materials, and they need to be designed for recycling. So we need to start to think early in the design processes. We also need to reuse materials from existing buildings, look at them as resource banks, really. And then we don't want to create any combustible waste or landfill. So those are the dimensions we're going to work on. And again, we have to use systems to guide us and see how we're going. So we do, of course, follow-ups on all our waste from production. And Peab has invested quite a lot of money and time in training to increase awareness. in the company. And we're seeing really good trends at the minute. It's less mixed fractions from projects and less landfill. So we're on a good path. And we also offer circular materials ourselves within our business area industry. But this is a complex question. We can't solve this by ourselves. So we've taken part in research projects, which is very important for us to collaborate with other parties. But then again, the cooperation with the supply chain is very important. And I brought 2 examples. One is with Peab that I'll talk to you in a minute. So I'm just going to finish the last goal first. Last but not least, by year 2045 we will be climate neutral, and as you know, that's the same pace as Sweden as a whole has stated to become climate neutral. So about 80% of our industry's climate or CO2 emissions comes from our material. So it will be important to look at transportation and the fuels that we are using. But if we don't look at the material, we will never reach this goal. And the primary strategy is to reduce actual emissions. Compensatory measures can be used, but we want to reduce the actual emissions. So going on this journey means that we need to do it together with our suppliers, because we need to monitor the emissions from the materials that we use. So how do we go about this? Well, we started an extensive work with energy mapping in the entire Peab. So it's a pilot project at the moment, but we're going to scale it up. So we're basically monitoring the energy we use in factories and also out on projects. And we will be able to also monitor the CO2 emissions from material in the system. Then project development is very big, very important for this. We have exciting products with, for example, the eco cement, where we use blast furnace slag from steel industry. And by using that, we can reduce parts of the cement in concrete production. We have our eco asphalt and also green machines and things like that. And that will be important to work with in the future. But then we also see the demands from the clients again. They want us to build with life cycle analyses. So it's again the early planning and the design parts of a project that's really, really important, because that's where we can make both the cost reductions and also climate reductions. The key for the future to reach this goal is again to work together in the business. And as you know, roadmap for fossil-free competitiveness is plays a major part in the building industry at the moment. And Peab has of course signed our roadmap. And what we can see that's important for construction and civil engineering, it's for our material suppliers to have environmental product declarations, so we can see the CO2 emissions from the material that you deliver. We can also see that the requirements in the procurement contracts processes is important, because when our clients demands for us to produce in a climate friendly way, we will do it. And then we can put our requirements on to our suppliers. So to give you 2 examples on how we work today when it comes to material efficiency. The first example here is a drywall project in Malmö. There's a lot of drywall waste from the housing side, unfortunately, and it goes to deposits. So what they try to achieve is in the Malmö region to create a circular flow of drywall. And it was 4 involved parties. From site, we had to handle the waste in containers. Then it was transported to a warehouse where it's crushed down and then transported to the factory. So with 4 involved parties, we had to focus on workplace equipment, information, cooperation, and the logistic chain. About 50% of the waste was recycled in this project, but we still think it was a good result because we need to start to work somewhere. And what happened here is that the factory had to make some investments to be able to handle the waste, and we needed to focus on how to actually handle the waste on site, because in this case it was very sensitive to moist, so we had to have closed containers. It can sound simple, but if it doesn't get handled right, the whole chain sort of gets broken. So now we're taking this experience from this pilot project into the research project that we're part of. So it's about taking small steps, and we have to start somewhere, and this was taught us a lot. Next example I'd like to talk to you about is with a supplier that you might know. It's Peab. We're building a massive infrastructural project up in Gothenburg. And we need a lot of EPS in order to be able to build that. And for you who know Gothenburg, there's a lot of clay there. So we had, in this project, was embankments with pillars that needed to be made. And basically, by lowering the load on top by using EPS, we needed to use less piles. That meant less concrete and less steel. So in total, this was actually quite a clever solution, both economically and environmentally. BAV Sandra has delivered this material for us. And before the summer, we started to try to take the waste that gets created and put it back to BAV's factory. Although we do customize this, we get them customized, these blocks. But as you can see around the pillars, we need to cut into them, so there is waste created. But Peab really sees this as a win-win project because it's not a big work effort for us. It's easy to sort it on site. BAV is priding us with the big bags. We just put the waste in, and it gets delivered back to the factory with the same transport that actually delivers the material. So we're looking forward to resume this sorting collaboration next month, actually. And the way we see it, it's good for the environment, but also it's what we need to do, because in order to make this change and shift, we need BAV to recycle more in order to be able to purchase from you in the future. So I think this is a good example on how we need to collaborate in the business. To summarize, I think, there's, of course, this big political decisions that needs to be made, and we need big shifts in technology so we can produce steel and concrete that are fossil-free. But when we start to cooperate in new ways, both internally and Peab, we need to sort of work together in a more like crossover way of working, and we also need to find new ways of working together with our employers. We're not gonna get it right the first time all the time. So basically, what I think is that in order to become sustainable, we really need to invest in time, money, and a lot of patience, and that's how we're gonna get to the goals and manage to get through the road ahead.
Tack så mycket. Thank you very much.